Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice.
Hey everybody, Fruit Loop here. Y'all know how much I love Star Wars. So, my what you know for this episode is, did you know the sound of a Star Wars lightsaber was created by pairing together the sound of an idle film projector and the buzz from an old TV set? Woo! My hat, just want to make sure you guys can read it, says, I don't have an accent, y'all do. So I don't think I have an accent, but just a reminder, we are continuing our trek back through some of our older episodes highlighting the Pike County Massacre. This is episode 5. I encourage you to go back and watch or listen to episodes 1 through 4 before listening to this one in case you missed any of this week. I also wanted to let you know that we will have one more episode in this series and it will drop Saturday. We're normally off on the weekends, but I wanted to make sure you guys were able to hear our full coverage in the order that they aired. Just a reminder, the trial will be coming up in August. We hope you will follow our coverage of this case. So sit back and take a listen.
George Wagner had the hearing yesterday. He looked really thin. He has lost a ton of weight.
Yeah, you sent me that picture and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and he also, for the first time, looked really nervous. When the judge spoke to him, his voice definitely was not as bold as it has been in the past. And, of course, Jake pled guilty and is cooperating with investigator or with the state.
Yeah, I did try to catch it, but it just kept saying, we'll start, whatever it said, we'll start soon or...
Yeah. It was very late. I think maybe 20, 30 minutes late. And so we all were sort of questioning. I was in a chat room. I was watching it through Law and Crime Network. And there was a chat room and we thought, oh man, is he about to plead guilty or just call this hearing off and in the future to plead guilty? But once the hearing was in session, the defense said in light of recent events, we kind of need to take a step back and reevaluate our position, which means his goose is cooked.
You in trouble.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, if I were him, I would take my chances with a jury trial. At this point, what does he have to lose? I'm not saying that's the best for the family or for the state to spend the money.
Yeah, but his defense, yeah.
I mean, it seems like maybe he's the one they have the least on. But then again, I saw some discovery this morning that the state submitted yesterday, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
They have a lot. So we don't know. But I mean, good grief, you get one person on that jury, if they try to kind of go the route of, well, his family was pressured. He had no hand in this as far as, what do you call it? Like no dog in the fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. If I were him, I'd take my chances with a jury trial.
Oh, me too.
So essentially the state said the same thing, which is in light of recent events, we have some additional discovery that we're going to be submitting to you in 30 days, which is probably everything Jake told. We know they found weapons he led them to weapons that were used in the murders and also a car that was bought specifically for the crimes.
You know, looking back, it's crazy that only one person has to not believe or, whatever. It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Because we know he's guilty.
Right.
I mean, his brother's already said he did, all this stuff. So
right.
It's dangerous.
It is. And I don't know. I mean, it's a good debate. Is it fair to have a jury and then one holdout when you've got the majority saying this person's guilty?
Well, look at Casey Anthony.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, sheesh.
Yeah. So that's kind of all that happened. There's going to be another hearing June 21st at 1 p.m. I kind of think, honestly, at this point, he may just plead guilty, though. They all looked very defeated yesterday. They all just looked like the wind had been taken out of their sails. Yeah. And it has been. Yep. So big news in the Pike County Massacre. We covered this case extensively. If you guys aren't familiar with it, go back and anything Pike County Massacre, Roden, murders,
Wagner.
the Wagners. It's a very wild, crazy story. So, just a really quick rundown. There's a family called the Wagner family, and there's a dad, a mom, and two sons. And then you have the Roden family. There were eight of them, and Jake Wagner had a baby with Hannah Roden, and that relationship went south. And there were some issues about child custody. Well, the mom, Angela Wagner, started hacking into um, Hannah's Facebook and reading messages. Now, here's the interesting thing. Before all this, the Wagner family had essentially strong armed their oldest son's fiance into signing over all custody of their child together to the Wagners. Remember, she was so scared when all this happened, she left and went and hid somewhere on the property until it was dark.
Yep. Yep. I remember all that.
So she reaches out to Hannah, who has the baby with the younger brother, Jake, and says, "Don't sign anything. I regret it. They will strong arm you." And she said, "They'll have to kill me first." And that's what started all this. Angela found that message that she had hacked into. And so now that's kind of believed to be what set the plan into motion.
Yep. So what just happened? What, yesterday?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of new listeners. So I'm just trying to. This family of four went and during the night murdered eight different family members from this family at four different locations, including the girl, the mother of the child that she had with Jake, that she said, "You'll have to kill me." So there were
Yep.
eight murders, long time, 4 years before they were arrested, I believe. They went and spent time in Alaska. Anyways, we're not going to get too deep in it. Angela Wagner, who we all thought was sort of sort of the one that was obsessed with custody of these kids. If you remember, Jake pled guilty back in April to the murders, five of the murders he
Yeah,
claimed.
they were holding out, and then he finally said,
Yeah.
guilty, and then gave up everything.
And not only that, but he agreed to testify against his mom and his dad and his brother at a future trial. But the
Yeah.
deal for him confessing was they took the death penalty off as an option, a sentencing option. A lot of people had a lot of feelings about that, but that's the deal the family agreed to.
Yeah. So what happened yesterday? I was shocked.
Okay.
I didn't see this coming.
I think was it yesterday or the day before? I don't remember. All
I
right,
think it was
Angela the
yesterday,
mom.
but
It was yesterday, yeah.
yeah.
Angela pled guilty to no, it was Friday. Sorry, it's Sunday. She pled guilty to her role in the Roden murders, and the state is going to give her 30 years in prison with no early release. And the Roden family agreed to this plea deal. The reason I think she pled down is or pled is if she had went to trial, she faced 110 years for her roles in the murder. It should have been a life in prison case, just boom.
Yeah, that's what's shocking to me, and I know I've seen comments on our pages about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Less
30 years doesn't seem long enough.
no, because if you do the math, that's less than 4 years per dead body.
Yeah,
They took
yeah, I
out a whole
don't.
family.
Yeah,
So the most serious charges she pled to on Friday, complicity to commit aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, and engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. Each first degree felony punishable by up to 11 years in prison and a $20,000 fine. But what did they do with the murder charges?
so the state dropped the 8 aggravated murder charges in exchange for her plea. They do not believe she actually killed anyone, but was a big part of devising and planning the murders. She admitted to buying guns and ammunition, forged custody documents, hacked into social media accounts of the victims, and she also helped move some of the bodies after they had been shot.
Yeah, and
Um,
here's where I'm confused. There was another report that said that she was at home at the time of the murders and then she knew what they were going to do and they talked about it when they got back. I don't know if maybe after all this they went and moved some bodies, but they had the two kids at home that time. So we've always kind of wondered who was watching the kids. Hopefully they didn't have them in the car when, you know, Sophia's mommy, Hannah, is getting murdered. So I didn't know, I couldn't make sense of that, but it did
I
say
just
she
don't
was,
understand. I don't understand the 30-year deal. I don't get it.
No, I don't either. I mean, that's 8 people that she went and bought, uh, like the brass catchers. I mean, she went and bought the
Yeah,
shoes. She knew what was going to happen. I don't know if maybe the Roden family's just tired. This has been 6 years.
could be.
I mean, 6 years. Here's my question though. We know that George the Fourth, the older brother, it's been said during some preliminaries that they do not have a lot of DNA evidence against him. I don't know what they have as far as digital evidence, but if I were him, I would take my chances at trial.
Oh yeah,
You have nothing to lose.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, his
I mean,
lawyer, yeah, his lawyer said there's not a lot on him.
so I wonder if part of hers is she's gonna testify against him.
Well, yeah, she's going to testify against the other two. She said that.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
now she's a witness for the state. All right. So, when all this was going on in the courtroom, she didn't show any emotion. She didn't even look over at the Roden family from what I saw. But okay, so if we're going to think about it from all sides, yes, life in prison without the possibility of parole would have been the least they could do. And she only will serve about 3.5 years for each victim. But if you think about it this way, she's 48 years old. She's going to be 78 when this comes up for her to be paroled. Can you imagine? I mean, not that I feel bad for her, but she will have hurdles if she makes it out as an elderly woman. She will have no family waiting on the outside. She's not
yeah,
going to have anywhere to go. She's not going to have any money. So whether or not she even lives to be 78 is to be seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
True, true.
But the family did agree to it, and I think they're just tired. And they've still got Billy and George, and they both have hearings next week. I'm going to keep an eye on those. Of course, the big theory is that they're going to go ahead and plead guilty as well and just put
Yep.
this all to bed. And then news stations will sue to get the case files. And because there's this morbid side of me that really wants to know how they did it, because they were able to move to Alaska for almost 2 years after the murders. It took
Yeah,
a very long time to get them in custody. So we
yeah,
will see what happens with that. I just it's crazy. I mean, 8 people dead
yeah,
in one
yeah.
night.
And we understand your everybody's frustration saying that 30 years wasn't enough. We agree, but we don't have
100%.
any
But
hand in it.
getting
So
out at 78, what's she going to do? Go get a job?
yeah,
Have
yeah,
credit to buy a house or anything? She'll end up, maybe in a halfway house.
yeah,
But that's a really really high age number to be starting over. And she won't have her family. I mean, Jake, as of right now, Jake has life without parole. And maybe we'll see what they give George and Billy. Really crazy. This is literally the biggest investigation in Ohio's history. It was crazy. So just for we always talk about the long road to justice, and we mean it when we say it. And I like days because it puts it in perspective. So it's been 2,139 days since the murders on April 21st into the 22nd, 2016. 1,023 days since the Wagners were arrested on November 13th, 2018. So you see, over 2 years, there were no arrests.
you have Miss Bonner for math. It was technically, guys, it's 1,203 days.
What did I say?
1,023.
Dude, I'm not even trying to be funny. I swear to God, I think I'm dyslexic. I mix numbers up all the time. Don't even laugh because you sat right next to me in Miss Bonner's class, which
Yeah,
was like one step above the resource class.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
guys. I mean, really, if I had to do math to save my
Uh,
life, bye.
I told somebody that today. There's no more general math in high school. I would not pass.
Look, when my kids have math issues, they know. Don't even go there with mom because
Oh,
your
it's a
answer is going
joke.
to be, I don't know.
They would come to me and I said, I took the same math your mama took. Don't
I
come
know,
to me either.
I know. But their dad's like a math whiz. So
Yeah.
the problem is it ends up with tears at the table. So All right. So, what's coming up hearing wise in this case? Well, there's a lot. Motions hearings for March the 7th, May the 2nd, and May the 16th. April 4th, they're having a hearing to dispute or argue about the shoe print evidence that was found at a few of the scenes of the murders, whether or not to allow that. July 5th through the 14th is jury questionnaire and seating. August 8th through the 12th, and the 15th through the 19th is jury selection. So George Wagner the fourth, which is the oldest son, his trial is set, I believe, for August 29th. I've seen a couple of days thrown out there. And I don't know how in the world this is going to happen, but they say this trial is expected to last 30 days. No clue how you finish in 30 days. And the state is calling 335 witnesses.
No way it'll be done in 30 days.
They're going to be having testimony when Jesus comes back.
Yeah. They're going to be 95.
Yeah. Well, okay. So a little more backstory. You have the mom, Angela. The dad is Billy. Then you have the youngest son, Jake, who was the ex-boyfriend of one of the victims, Hannah Roden. And then they had a child together named Sophia. Sophia was the only daughter of theirs together. Hannah had another baby with somebody else. So Hannah and Jake's child was the center of this custody dispute. And it's been a while, and I just found this out, and I feel so bad. Leonard Manley, Dana's father, grandfather to Frankie, little Chris, and Hannah, who were all murdered, he passed away in December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I feel so bad. I mean, he just never got to see justice, but at least, man, bless his heart. He was, I always felt so terrible for him. He lost his whole family just about.
Yeah.
So, Jake and Angela have both pled guilty, and they will testify against Billy and George the Fourth at trial. So far, the dad and the oldest son are taking it to trial. So Angela pled guilty to 14 lesser charges, including conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, several counts of aggravated burglary, and tampering with evidence. Prosecutors dropped the murder charges against her. I believe she had like 8 murder charges. She will receive 30 years and no chance of parole in those 30 years. She'll be in her 70s before she's eligible. And Jake took the guilty plea, and in doing that, it took death off the table for him and the rest of his family. But here's the thing, and this has been the source of a couple of hearings. The prosecutors aren't going to drop that death penalty until Jake testifies essentially the way he told them he would. And that's been the source of some hearings. But as of right now, the judge has not forced the state to take that death off the table.
Well, you think about it, if he were to back out, then
Right. I mean, that could be a little game.
Yeah.
To get them off death. And I believe he admitted to shooting 5 of the 8 victims. So he led investigators to 5 cement buckets on the Flying Farms property, which I believe that's Frederica, the grandmother's farm. And in that, they found 3 of the guns used in the murders and a knife. I think there was some DNA found on that as well. There could possibly be more they found. And he also led them to 2 of the vehicles used the night of the murders. One of those vehicles was bought specifically to carry out the murders. I believe either he gave the car or sold it to somebody shortly after. And a corrections officer made a report on July 6, 2019. This is just stuff that I'm finding, saying that Angela asked the corrections officer if she could get bond because her sons did this and not her.
Okay, we know that. And we need to, can you explain the allegedly?
Yes. So,
for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. So when we say allegedly, we were told that to protect ourselves because, like I got kids in braces and kids going to college. I can't get sued right now. All of this stuff is allegedly for entertainment purposes. And when I say entertainment purposes, we don't mean that we're making fun of anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Had a comment that just sort of flew all over me a little bit. So,
yeah. Yeah. We're not making light of anything or making fun of anybody.
No,
We're just
that's not
telling
how
you
That's
to
not how
save
we
money.
roll. I hope you
Yeah,
guys know that by now. We make fun sometimes, but we're not ever going to get down and dirty
yeah,
and go
yeah.
there. So,
Yeah.
all right, you pick up here, Fruity Loopy.
So a roommate of hers told correction officers Angela asked her how to change her appearance and get a fake ID if she gets bond. Really? So May 13th, 2021, a piece of mail sent to Angela tested positive for meth. The officer tested it because she noticed smeared ink, and they had issues where smeared ink had tested positive. The same sender sent another package in July, and it again tested positive for opioids.
Opioids.
Opioids. That's a weird word.
It
Um,
is.
the
Say it four
same
times
thing.
fast.
Do the same thing again in December. Tested positive for possible meth or fentanyl. That's awesome, dude. What the world? What the world? That gets a big what the world. Um, so October 7th, 2021, during a pod search that was suspected of having drugs in George the Fourth cell, officers found a Bible with a white powdered substance in it, and also found a needle with ink. He was placed on a 5-day lockdown.
A white powder substance in the Bible. That is not what Jesus would do.
Maybe it was just powder.
Mm-hmm.
It was some baby powder.
Ain't no baby powder in the Bible.
Uh, so the defense for George IV wanted to suppress audio recordings. The state obtained warrants and permission from the trucking company that George IV and Jake worked for to bug the truck they were driving. Defense. I'm talking about
Defense.
basketball. I'm
You feel
talking
like
about
a cheerleader.
basketball.
Defense.
Defense. Yeah. The defense said it violated constitutional rights. The state said they obtained lawfully interception warrants. They trying to throw everything out.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you gotta. He's taking it to trial, which, I mean, apparently Jake told prosecutors that George did not shoot anybody. But here's the thing, it goes back to that whole thing. He helped plan this. And not
Yep.
only that, but if you're riding with your buddy and you know he's going to rob somebody and somebody gets murdered, you get the murder charge, just like the dude that planned it.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, even if you didn't know they were gonna murder somebody, you get
Yeah.
thrown in the pokey just like everybody else.
Here's the thing, this family's very weird. Like, they're a unit. They're just they flow together, and so much of all this chaos, they were all in on it. It's a very weird possessive family that
Yeah,
just it's odd.
yeah,
I'm close to my family, but like our finances are not intertwined, and my kid. I don't want my kids to call my mom. It gets weird.
yeah. It's weird. So the state says that the majority of the criticisms from the defense are actually requirements imposed by the statute outlining the application requirements for wiretaps. Jake and George were residing in the truck for 24 hours a day, 5 days a week at the time it was bugged. Ain't no telling what's on that tape.
Oh man, no, there's a lot.
Yeah. So the defense objected to the state introducing 34 prior acts. He says they were committed by someone else and are not relevant to him. Some of these acts are Jake's abuse to Hannah Roden, controlling her and their daughter. Jake threatened to kill her and hide her body where it wouldn't be found. Jake asking Hannah to name him as the father of her second child, even though it wasn't his. Defendant and co-defendants controlling behavior when Hannah would stay with them. Jake and co-defendants spying on Hannah, including her social media, spying when their daughter was with her. George IV reporting back to Jake about Hannah, the defendants wanting Angela to raise and be considered Sophia's mother. And again, Sophia is Jake and Hannah's daughter.
Yeah, so they had these big, you know, custody of Jake's child with Hannah, and then George the Fourth's son with a woman named Tabitha. It's like their whole world revolved around getting these kids and having them.
Yeah,
It's just anyway. So some more acts, and I understand some of what the defense is talking about here, because Jake's abuse of Hannah, it what they're saying is it could prejudice the jury. even though he had nothing directly to do with that. And I kind of get that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I am more excited about this trial than any other trial coming up this year because the crime was so brazen.
Yeah.
And they went into what, 4 different residences and killed people. And
Yeah,
they
it's
did it
big.
one. I mean, the morbid side of me wants to know, how did they do it? How did they pull it off to where at one point there's suspicion on the family of
Yeah.
the victims? They moved to Alaska. The Wagners moved to Alaska. Jake remarries in Alaska.
Yep.
They have both the kids up there, and then they move back. And it's just you hate to say somebody planned something very well, but they did, because for a long time it was thought to be drugs. They had
Yep.
marijuana growing farms. So, you see how the investigation really started out with, and there are people in that town who still to this day think these guys were set up and that they're innocent. It's going to be a great trial.
Oh yeah.
So, some more of the acts that it's kind of like prior bad acts, I guess you would say. George the Fourth and his family's control over Tabitha Clayton, which was George the Fourth's significant other, when she lived with him, including her fleeing the residence after they threatened to shoot her, and their control over the child Tabitha and George shared. She signed over her custody rights under false pretenses, and they didn't allow her to see their son unless another Wagner family member was present. They had George and Tabitha's son refer to Angela as mom.
That's freaky.
Well, if you remember, that was some of the things that they saw on social media when Angela and Jake were hacking into those Facebook accounts. Was Tabitha and Hannah were talking, the two girlfriends, and Tabitha told Hannah, "Do not let them bully you into giving full custody." She regretted it, but it got so bad the night that all this blew up. If you remember, Tabitha ran out in the dark, or ran and hid on the property until it was dark so she could leave.
Yep. Yep.
That's how scared she was.
Yeah.
And they
No
alleged
joke.
that I'm sorry, what?
It's no joke. Like it's
No,
serious stuff.
it's oh man, these people are so controlling.
Yeah.
And they alleged that Tabitha wasn't allowed to contact her family while she resided with the Wagners. While in Alaska, the Wagners threatened Jake's new wife. Her name was Elizabeth, and they also threatened to kill her family if they came over. They would spy on Tabitha and her
If
and
they
her mother's social
visited,
media. What?
if they visited, they would kill them.
That's what they said they would do. I mean, look, they
Wow.
killed a family of 8, I wondered,
Holy.
did this girl even Google her husband? How do
Well,
you
I
marry
mean,
somebody who's associated with 8 murder? But at the time, I guess they weren't suspects.
nope.
Um, So they were spying on Tabitha and her mom's social media accounts. Their goal was to keep their child away from Tabitha for a year so that in court they could claim that she abandoned this boy as a strategy for custody.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out on the last episode that will air tomorrow. We hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday.